everyone, I think, at least what I experience here, wants to support each other. And I think you'll find if you feel any fear to reach out to your local media, they want to support small businesses. They want to support, the solopreneurs, the, entrepreneurs. They want to bring light to people's stories and their missions and how did they get started doing what they're doing, right? They want those good, meaty stories. So if you have them, you've got to put yourself out there. No one's going to know how you can help them, if we're hiding at home behind our computers.
Welcome to Glow Up Boss, the business school for beauty entrepreneurs. Having trained over 8,000 women to build and run profitable beauty businesses, I'm here to share knowledge and skills to put you on the fast track to grow your business and glow up your life. I'm your host, Veronique Munro. With 20 years experience as a product developer, celebrity spray tan artist, and founder of multiple sunless tanning companies, I've launched products and methods that have become today's industry standard. This podcast is where you will learn what you need to build your business from the ground up. You'll hear from industry experts on how to build a thriving customer base, grow revenue, buy back your time, and create the freedom to live life on your terms. It's time to discover the boss within you. Get ready to glow up. Welcome to Glow Up Boss, your one-stop shop for all things business and beauty and glowing up your life from the inside out. Are you a business owner who's really wanted to be on TV, really wanted to be in magazines, really just wanting to get your story out there and just confused about how everybody else seems to be able to do it but you? Well, worry no more and wonder no more. I am sitting here with someone who's referred to as Magic Myden. She is a PR magician, truly, well and truly. This woman has been in PR for 24 years. She's worked with the best of the best in entertainment, brands, fashion, beauty, technology. I can go on and on about this woman. She's worked with celebrity. She has been at the top of her game in Los Angeles, and I have been so incredibly blessed that our paths have crossed. And I'm sitting with Nicole Myden today, and she just launched a book that has become a bestseller on Amazon. It's a book that is tactical, that will help you step by step on how to get your message, how to get your business out there in a way where you really feel worthy of publicity. I am so honored to welcome today to this podcast, Nicole Myden. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, that's such a nice intro. Thank you for being here. I'm so proud of you. And to all your listeners, I'm so grateful to be here and hopefully help you.
So, Nicole, let's start with a little bit about you and how you got started in the world of PR.
Yeah, it's so crazy when people say like 24 years, it's like another lifetime. But, long of it short, as you know, I grew up in Los Angeles, and I think like most people that grew up there, I wanted to be part of the entertainment world at the time so much. And I knew I had a love of connecting people. I knew I had a love of writing. I had a love of all these different passions. And I went to college actually to become an entertainment journalist. I thought I would go into broadcasting. And through a divine intervention, truly my senior year of college, I ended up getting an internship in May of 2000. So we're going back far, but this internship really changed the trajectory of my life because I fell into public relations. At the time, you couldn't really study PR in school. It's different now. People weren't talking about public relations as a career, so I didn't really know what I was getting into. But, I really found that it was something that I could find a groove in, and it was bringing just so much joy to me and allowing me to learn all these passions of mine and connect the dots, so to speak. And so, started in entertainment out of college, worked, like you said, with a lot of celebrities, a lot of big firms, a lot of big agencies, huge, big brands. And, fast forward to 8 years ago, after a very, very, I think, great career in Los Angeles and a lot of opportunity, found myself just not soulfully really fulfilled by the environment in LA anymore. And that's okay. I think we have to pay attention to those pings we get. And I had one. And I moved here to Scottsdale, Arizona 8 years ago. And, I know a lot of people listening will probably resonate when you take these big leaps and you make these big changes. It's very scary. And I didn't know anybody here. I was leaving my whole identity behind, my whole network, and starting from scratch, which, felt intuitively right. But, when you get to a new town, you got to kind of figure out who the people are and who the players are. And I found myself going to a lot of networking events and trying to build a community. And when people would ask me what I did for a living, the first thing that would come up is, how do I get on TV? Or how do I get into the magazines? Or how can I be that trusted expert? And so it really afforded me an opportunity to take all this skill set that I had from my LA life and my former life, as I like to call it, and really build a community of teaching small business owners and entrepreneurs and mid-sized businesses and solopreneurs that they are worthy of these opportunities, as you mentioned, and that they just needed someone to show them how to build genuine relationships with the media in their own backyard and become that trusted resource there with their media and, build all that recognition and build all that rapport that they deserve. I think that there's so many people who I meet who think that press and publicity coverage, being in a magazine or ending up on a local morning show, is only for multi-million-dollar brands or celebrities, when it's for everybody, because everybody has a story to tell.
That's amazing. I love your history, your story, and how you got here. You're such an amazing person.
Thank you.
Meeting you, since I left LA and moved to Scottsdale, you're one of my favorite people. So yay.
Same. It's been a beautiful ride, and it's so great to see this all kind of manifest for you. So it's amazing.
Can I ask you, I don't know whether or not you can share this, but who are some of the celebrities that you've worked with?
Oh, goodness. There's a lot that I probably will stay away from. But, when I started out in PR in 2000, there were a lot of very large, now I would say like A-list actors who came in who were just starting out, in their careers. So, American Pie was like a huge, huge film at that time. I was working with Allison Hannigan, who came from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and she went on to, be on American Pie. For those of you who are my age, you'll know what that is. We worked with huge A-list celebrities though at that agency, and it was a lot. I mean, I found myself having days where I'm on, the set of a photo shoot for a Rolling Stone magazine cover, all the way to, taking a celebrity client to get ready to be a guest on a, national evening talk show, So it was so exciting, and it was everything I dreamed of. I got to do all the things I dreamed of. I wanted to be, on the movie sets. I wanted to be at the studio lots. I ended up working at Fox on American Idol. So I was around, Paula Abdul and Simon Cowell and all these people that, I admired so much, and I was in the thick of it. And, I'm 45 now. I'm in a very different phase of my life. I think that when I think of that version of me and all the things I dreamt of doing, I made a lot of wonderful things happen. And I manifested a lot of my hopes and dreams. With that, though, I think comes responsibility as you do go through life and you go through challenges and you go through different seasons, that your priorities change. So, I love all the things I got to do in LA, and I love that version of me that set out to do all the things, and I did them. And, I think part of writing this book, and I do talk about those LA days in the book, is to honor these former chapters that we go through in these seasons. And it's so beautiful for me to look back now and see that the version of me now that likes to help business owners versus maybe the A or B list celebrities, it's because I've grown and evolved, and I'm in a different phase of my purpose.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that with me and with our listeners today. So our listeners are mainly women
Yes.
in the beauty industry.
Yes.
Many of them are solopreneurs. that have mobile beauty businesses, whether it's spray tanning, lash artistry, esties. They may work in salon suites. They may have brick and mortar businesses, and a number of them also have their own little, indie brands of products. So some of them would like to be able to do their own PR while they're growing their companies and getting to the point where they may be able to hire actual publicists to work on national campaigns. And I know you're a big advocate for sourcing publicity locally before you go after the nationals. Let's talk a little bit, and maybe we can, look into your book a little bit at some tactical things they can do to get the word out about them and their businesses and become the local experts.
Yeah, 100%. So I wrote You Are Worthy of Publicity because I wanted to remind people, like we said earlier, that you're not only worthy of publicity, but teach you those tactics. There's a lot of people in the online world that talk about publicity and they talk about visibility, and that's amazing and it's beautiful. But we have to also get down to the nuts and bolts of how do we actually make these things happen, right? And so there is networking and there are opportunities to get yourself more in your community. But when you're dealing with your local press, we have to get a little bit more granular. So my whole big spiel to small business owners and solopreneurs really is what you just said. People need to know who you are and how you can help them where you are based in your local market. If you are all those women that you just mentioned that are in a local market, spraying, doing spray tans, having a brick and mortar, having pop-ups, people in your community need to know that you're there. And I, after 24 years of doing this, just like to tell business owners strategically, it makes sense to hone in on your local market first, and then you can go after all the big, national opportunities. Think about it this way. If a producer at a national talk show, if you're pitching yourself and you're at that point where you're reaching out to somebody at a national talk show and you want to get on that show, probably one of the first things they might ask you is, let me see footage of you doing TV in your local market so I can see your body language, so I can understand your messaging. How do you communicate? How are you selling your service or your craft or talking about your mission or purpose or how you help people? So don't take lightly the opportunity in your local market. We have to remember there's podcasts in our local markets. There's television morning shows, right? Afternoon shows from our news outlets. We have online outlets where we can be featured. We have hyperlocal magazines and we have hyperlocal newspapers. That's a lot of media sitting in someone's backyard. And certainly some markets are larger than others, but really when you think about it, the priority, I think, for most business owners, if you have the bandwidth, if you have an intern or a coordinator on your team, or someone who can help take this off your plate, or a virtual assistant, or if you're a solopreneur like myself and you can carve out some time in your calendar every month, we want to start by researching who those media folks are that I just mentioned. Who are the people at the magazines? Who are the producers at the morning shows? These are the folks that you want to build the rapport with because they need to know what expertise you can offer their audience. And so if we simplify it that way and we take everything else off the table right now and just think about who are my key media players that I need to build relationships with, that is usually the first place I tell people to start. And what I talk about in the book is how do you right, where do we do this? Where do we find this information? Well, now we're living in a time where, different from when I started my career, we have access to everything on the internet. So you can Google all your local magazines, all your local newspapers, all the local TV stations, and literally set up a Google spreadsheet within your organization, within your company. If you're a solopreneur, you can set this up for yourself and create your own, what I call a media Rolodex. And I teach people how to do that step by step also in the book, but it's really simple. I see time and time again, too many amazing people with too many great brands, too many great stories, sitting back because they don't know where to start. They're overwhelmed. And so that was the catalyst for the book, was how can we take the overwhelm out of something that's meant to be fun, that's meant to help you connect to just new audiences, new customers, new eyes, right? How do we get in front of these people and take all this overwhelm off? Well, we have to start by first doing this very basic step in creating this Rolodex that allows us to know who would we even reach out to at this media outlet. So first and foremost, you've got to know who your people are, who are your media contacts. And if it feels too overwhelming to start researching all of them at once, start with just your local magazines or maybe your local newspapers. Another really important thing that I tell everybody, and you don't have to spend a lot of money to do this at all, is you have to have great imagery. So I talk about in the book this PR toolkit, which I reference it that way because it's kind of like this toolkit that would encompass all the things you need to be able to then reach out to those media outlets. So what does every brand need? We need great photos of the founder or the owner of the company and great product shots or some action shots, right? So if you don't have the funds to go hire a huge, professional photographer, you can lean on your local colleges. There are people that want to build portfolios, right? Get into your community. Ask people, how can we work together? You've got to have great photos and you've got to have your messaging and your brand kind of key messages, as I like to call it, nailed down. We don't want to reach out to any media outlet until we are totally, as I like to say, locked and loaded and confident that we have the right tools to go out to them. What you're wanting to do is you're wanting to build trust and become a trusted, reliable resource to your media. So if you go to them with everything that they need, you're immediately building trust, and that trust can last decades. I still work with media from the start of my career in LA from 25 years ago, because I built trust with them back then, and they move around to other outlets, right? And the person who's an intern at a magazine one day could go on to become the editor-in-chief. And so respecting these media relationships, building genuine rapport with them and becoming that expert is key.
How do you build rapport?
Yeah, it's such a good question. So there's a lot of things that you can do. And I know all of this might feel time consuming, but it's really simple. One thing I talk about in the book, and one thing I try to teach a lot of my clients, is what would make you feel like you're building a genuine relationship, right? If you think about it. So my key thing is, how do we get to know the media people? Well, invite them in for an experience, right? Nothing, I think, builds trust more than when somebody can have an experience in your aura, in your world, in your craft. So if you're a spray tan artist and you have a physical place to bring people in, especially local media and influencers, invite them in for a session. Show them how you work. Show them how great the experience is, how great they're going to feel after. Invite them. It's like we want to envelop them into our business. And right away, when you do that and you can offer them the experience of a complimentary service or a treatment or gift them with products, you're opening the door to take out kind of that barrier of mystery. Mm-hmm. And I think that is also another key step that so many people forget. If we have a place of business to bring them, or we have products to give them, or an experience, invite them into it. And then when you're talking to them, you can build that rapport with a lot of ease. And you can talk about places people travel or favorite restaurants you have in common, just like you would with anybody. And you start to build that connection of like, okay, I can really help this person. And here's another key thing that I think a lot of people forget is we're not only wanting to be a resource for how we can help them, but we've got to also take ourselves out of the equation sometimes and think, okay, maybe this media contact doesn't need me as an expert, but how can I introduce them to someone else that can also be a resource? Maybe they're looking for someone in particular that I know in my network, and I can also build trust by showing them, hey, I'm going to introduce you to this person because they're a great resource for what I just heard you're looking for, right? So there's multiple ways to build that connection. If you're also having an event in your town, invite them to come to your event. If they're busy, they won't come. But you could also ask them maybe when their schedule's a lot, would they be open to having a coffee date? Would they be open to you taking them to lunch? So there are ways to get on their radar that's not aggressive, that's inviting, that again gives them that experience. That experience is what we're going after, because if they can touch, feel, and experience your products, your services, and they're going to keep you top of mind. So when they need that expert to quote in an article, or they need that last minute guest to come in and do a TV segment or fill a podcast spot, they'll remember. Right.
That's
and then
great.
it's up to you to keep that relationship going, of course. Right.
I love that. Glow Up Boss podcast is brought to you today by Infinity Sun. Are you an entrepreneur thinking that you'd like to start a new business that's fun, that doesn't cost a lot of money to start up, that you could do in the evenings and weekends and earn lots and lots of money? Starting a spray tanning business definitely checks off all those boxes. With state-of-the-art plug-and-spray proprietary spray tanning systems that require only one solution, you can literally choose 30 different levels of spray on the spray tanning system itself. Infinity Sun offers sunless tanning solutions that combine high-end skincare together with sunless tanning technology to not only create the most flawless looking tans, but also to improve the condition of the skin. So let's set expectations a little bit.
Yeah.
So they follow your step-by-step approach. They secure press. They end up on TV. They end up in their local magazines and on podcasts. And they've done it.
Yeah.
And then they're starting to think, well, how do I get back on TV? And how do I get back in magazines? What should people expect once they've secured press for like ongoing visibility?
Yeah. Such a good question. So all this momentum happens, right? It's like you follow the steps, you put yourself out there, you get these, as I like to call, maybe markers or goals or manifestations that we visualize. I want to be on the local news. Yes, I want to be on the cover of a local magazine. I want to be on XYZ podcast. So there's a couple of things that have to happen once you get the publicity. We have to leverage it. So I talk a lot in the book about publicity in my mind, and I think this is also just the spiritual side of me, looking at it like energy. So anything we want in our business, we can have. If we want to have a great accountant, we have to go out and find them, right? If we want to have beautiful photos, we have to find the best photographer that works for us. If we want to put energy into getting ourselves out in the community and we want publicity, we have to actually put energy into these things, right? So you have to be committed to ongoing press. Right? You've got to say to yourself, I'm someone who for 6 months of this year want to be visible in my market. Okay. So let's say now it's the beginning of the year. Well, think of it this way. We are in the beginning of the year. Magazines are working several months in advance, right? Because they're on what we call a long lead time frame. So you're wanting to pitch magazines probably 2-3 months in your local market ahead from where we are today, right? Because they're working on like probably March, April issues right now. Okay. So if you're working with magazines, you've got a long lead timeline, and then you've got day-to-day broadcast shows, you've got day-to-day online opportunities, you've got probably weekly, monthly opportunities to get on podcasts, right? So those are what we call short lead. Now, if you're already doing all those things and there's only so much in your market, what you have to think about is TV is a great example. How can you continue to position yourself as an ongoing expert with different topics? So let's say right now we're in the new year. New year, new you. It's like, here's new products, or, I'm launching this new business, or I've got this event we can talk about on TV, or I've got a new brick and mortar and I'm opening a brand new, health and wellness spa and my business, right? There's certain things that fit in the time of the calendar. Well, guess what? 3 months from now, you could still be an expert talking about something else that might be relevant in either the calendar or the news cycle, right? So it's really our job also as solopreneurs, as an entrepreneur, as a head of a team, to ingrain in not only yourself, but your teams, thinking about every month what could be pitched, right? So like your own internal editorial calendar. We know every year that in January, there's all kinds of new year, new you things that could be pitched, whether it's a product or anything related to health, wellness, body, beauty. These are relevant topics. Then you've got Valentine's Day, right? Then you go into spring beauty, spring break, things for travel, things for local. I mean, it's endless. Then you've got all the Mother's Day and Father's Day. And if you just look at the calendar alone, you could literally map out for yourself monthly pitches. Why I think that's important is because you're already saying to yourself, I'm ready to talk about these things when the opportunity comes up, right? It's not just a one and done, I was featured, right? So it's our job as the business owner, and it's our job to not only maintain the relationships, but keep putting ourselves out there with the expertise, right? How can I help the viewers of a morning show right now with skincare tips or sunless tanning tips, or, here's great products to travel when you're going, away for spring break, things to pack in your bag. I mean, endless, right? So it's really important, I always say, and I do talk about this in the book, especially now where we're at in the calendar, think about your year, break it into quarters, 3 months, 6 months, right? What could I talk about? How could I be a resource to these people every couple of months to keep putting myself back in front of them?
That's wonderful. Okay, so they've followed your advice. They've gotten the press. They've developed the relationships. They're nurturing the relationships. Now that they've got the press, what do they do with it? How do they leverage it?
Yeah, it's such a good question. So I want to say this because I think it's super important. I think that a lot of people engage in publicity thinking, and I know there's so many PR people who would kill me for saying this, but it's the God honest truth. They engage in publicity thinking for sure that it's going to drive a ton of business or a ton of customers. I just want to step back and say this before we get to the leveraging. Publicity is for overall brand awareness. It's to get you out there more in front of people and solidify yourself with that third-party credibility from the media. That's what people are looking for. Can it bring in more customers and can it drive your sales? 5,000%. I've seen it for decades. But is that always going to happen? No. But it's going to get more eyes on you because the energy of you leveraging it, which we're going to talk about, is going to keep you circulating. So the worst thing a business owner can do is invest their time, energy, and resources into getting publicity and then just let it sit. So what I teach people in the book and what I teach at workshops, and this is literally a couple of steps that make a world of difference. If you know that you're going to be in a magazine and you're doing a photo shoot and you're doing an interview and the magazine's coming out, let's say February 1st. Well, the day that magazine drops online, you need to share it and you need to tag the magazine and the writer and the outlet, and you need to really take the energy of the opportunity and put it out on your social media platforms. Depending how big or small your company is, it could go out in circulation into an email blast to your customer base. You can share it on LinkedIn. You can share it on Instagram, Facebook. People have text marketing. I mean, there's all kinds of ways. The goal is to, with gratitude, give thanks to the media outlet and the people who featured you, while also showing that you are being solidified as an expert and you were given this beautiful opportunity. It doesn't have to be a look at me thing. It's really a place of just, I'm humbled, I'm grateful. Thank you to this media person for taking the time to feature me. Thank you to this outlet. I'm so grateful to be able to talk about my brand, my mission, and you share it. And what happens is you'll see a lot of the media outlets will reshare it. So that will get you in front of additional eyes. I have stories for days. I think you've even heard some of these, but when I first moved here, I was working with a woman who came to one of my workshops. We had never met. We had like one person in common. That's how she ended up there. And after 6 months of us working together, all the media that we were doing here, it was all local. But somebody from a massive company, because all your press ends up in search and Google, saw her company and saw this article that was here. She ended up getting a major, company-changing, career, life-changing deal with a major brand because of something that we did here in this market. So don't ever, discount, anyone listening, the importance of, it might seem like low-hanging fruit, but it's not. All of these opportunities end up in Google search. The podcast, the online articles, all the newspaper features, people can find you that way. So it's great for SEO. And, it's our job, though, to leverage it. You should also put it on your website and create a press tab on your site. You can create a digital media kit with all your press. There's so many ways to take it and then push it forward. So, what do you do when you have a onslaught of press? You can put together a beautiful digital kit. You can then use that and go pitch yourself for speaking opportunities. You can pitch yourself for brand partnership deals. I mean, it's endless. But you've got to take the time to leverage it and use it in your favor. So, all the little things that happen in your market, you want to save those and you want to really pump them out and leverage them on your social networks.
I love that. That's such great advice. There are thousands of homeless dogs in the pounds and shelters and running all over the streets, and not enough people out there to help them. Sprays for Strays is a fundraising organization that raises money through the sunless tanning and beauty industry to help all the rescues all over the United States of America pull the dogs out of the pounds and shelters, get them vetted, get their vaccinations, get them spayed and neutered, help with any sort of behavioral issues, and help to get them into their forever homes. Go to spraysforstrays.com and become a member or donate. Every little bit of support helps. Thank you to our sponsor, Sprays for Strays, for helping to save the lives of dogs, one spray tan at a time. It's funny, when I first started my company, there wasn't all this social media, there wasn't podcasting, speaking engagements weren't so prevalent.
I know.
It's almost overwhelming, the opportunities and the free opportunities that we have for publicity out there.
Yeah, there's so much. And that's why, again, I wanted to write this book. I'm a small business owner. I'm a solopreneur. My heart is with everyone, especially listening to this show. I get it. I mean, I am you. I'm a solopreneur, and I've chosen to stay that way intentionally. And so we are resourceful, we're filled with grit, and we've got to roll up our sleeves and just make things happen. And not everybody, I understand, can afford to pay my monthly retainer and hire me to do the work for them. So the catalyst for this book was, okay, for all the people who can't hire me to do it for them, how can I teach them the basic fundamentals that they can do on their own? And yes, can I move things along faster for clients? 100%. But you don't have to feel like you have to pay for publicity to get it. And that was the root of writing this book, is that because everyone's worthy of it, because everyone's deserving of it, let me at least show you, if you can put the time and energy into it, how you can get some of these steps on your own. And then it's up to you, to leverage them, to continue to nurture them, and continue to put yourself out there, right? And there's so many different ways to do that. But I love to see, even years after me being here, just all the media relationships coming full circle with brands and introductions. And, at the end of the day, everyone, I think, at least what I experience here, wants to support each other. And I think you'll find, if you feel any fear to reach out to your local media, they want to support small businesses. They want to support, the solopreneurs, the, entrepreneurs. They want to bring light to people's stories and their missions and how did they get started doing what they're doing, right? They want those good, meaty stories. So if you have them, you've got to put yourself out there. No one's going to know how you can help them, if we're hiding at home behind our computers. We all know that.
100%. Well, I've got to tell you, I think your book is amazing. And I've bought it for friends and family members, and, everybody has gotten so much value. So I'd like to offer a gift to one of our very special listeners. I would love to gift them a copy of your book.
Yes.
So the way that they're going to be able to obtain it is to go and to like and write a review on this podcast on whatever platform they're listening to, whether it's Spotify, Apple, or even on YouTube, and then download the actionable worksheet. So, and this takes me to the next And the very
Yes.
end, the way we always end this podcast is we always end the podcast with 3 takeaways for our guests to give our listeners a way to move things forward. And we compile those 3 takeaways into a downloadable worksheet. So to enter to win your book, they will like and review this podcast. They'll go to the worksheet, download it, and then we will, within a week, choose a winner for this particular book. So with that said, Nicole, what are the 3 actionable things that our listeners can do to move things forward for them on a PR level?
Yeah. So, gosh, there's so many, but 3 to start to simplify. I will go back to, first, mindset and visualization. So there's an exercise actually in the book to do this. You've got to get clear and write down the outlets in your local market that you want to be featured on. Let's start there. Okay. I don't care if it's 3 magazines. I don't care if it's every TV station, but write it down so you are clear mentally and energetically what you're actually going after and why. The second piece then I would say is getting this media Rolodex done, okay? You've got to research who your local media folks are, and you can do that by Googling them, finding them on LinkedIn, or finding them on social media, okay? So we're visualizing, we are getting clear, we're going right to the source of who these folks are, and then we've got to get ourselves energetically positioned to reach out to them by getting our tools in our PR toolkit organized, which is your brand messaging, your product images if you have a product company, your photo of yourself if you're the owner or the company founder, and making sure you have your brand messaging and your photos ready to actually send to a media person. I would say those are for sure top 3. There's more, but those are great, easy places, I think, to start.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, Nicole Myden, I thank you so much for taking your time. I adore you, and I know that our listeners will have gotten so much value from today. So with that, I thank you and wish you a blessed rest of the week.
Thank you, guys.